Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Smoko podcast. My name is Alexis Armstrong, your host. Nice to meet you. The Smoko podcast is a place to celebrate and highlight women, trans women, and non binary folk working within STEM and trade occupations. So please tune in, take a break, and join us. We are on Smoko. And today we are extremely lucky to be joined by the lovely Jhalak Batta, who goes by Jay. She is a third year student at the University of Alberta, and she studies sociology, psychology, and biological sciences, which is a lot to study. So we're going to get into that there. And she is also on a wonderful organization, bunch of community organizations, but the one that we're going to talk about today is WISE, which is Women in Science and Engineering, and it is the daughter program of WISEist, which is Women in Scholarship, Engineering, Science, and Technology. And we're going to talk a little bit about women in science. We're going to talk about community organizations, her role within WISE, and then just her experience within university. So, Jay, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. This is honestly, it's an honor. And I was wondering if we could start at the very beginning because I think your background is really, really cool. And I think it's fantastic that you study multiple things. You study psychology, sociology, and
Mhm.
biological science, which is huge. And I was wondering if we could start on initial
Mhm.
discovery. How did you get here? And then what drew you to pursue these specialties?
Hmm. I think it was mainly due to just personal experience and wanting to know more. If I start from like right at the start, it started in high school and like end of junior high, so grade nine, where I kind of started discovering psychology, mental health, and things like that. And that kind of piqued my interest towards that. But during high school, like you have so many options, so many different things you can explore, and that's kind of what I went into. I got involved in volunteering, I got involved in social clubs and things like that, and through that I tried different streams of work from like sciences, so I took like all three sciences, politics, don't understand it but decided to try it, health and wellness, so mental health, physical health, and things like that. And in the end, like when I started university, I kind of just knew like psychology was it. And slowly over the course of the past 3 years, I've added on biosci and then sociology.
That's amazing. I love that you had like a young discovery and like a young passion of being like, okay, this is going to be my direction. Cause I think that doesn't really happen that often of people even knowing that these fields exist. I definitely didn't know what I ended up doing existed at that age. So I think that that's really incredible. But I also love your story in a way about focusing on mental health and focusing on a holistic view of that. And I think that the what you're studying really gives you that full well-rounded understanding of it, of looking at psychology, sociology, and structure, and then also looking at biological sciences and looking at the physiology behind it. Like I think it gives you a perfect runway for kind of the next
I
steps.
think
That's
that was
amazing.
kind of the plan. Like getting to psychology, even it was a up and down kind of road. Like I still had to explore so many different things to be able to come to a point where I was like, okay, yeah, maybe this fits better and I can do more with it. And then once I got into university, I either way for my future careers, I wanted some background in bio and know the biological components that add to a person. And then I did a class with an amazing sociology professor, and that kind of added to the
Mm.
view that, okay, an individual exists in a society. So learning that outer and external pathway to being an individual is a great addition to the entire degree and kind of completes it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And like even somebody being removed from that field, you can just kind of see on paper or see at big picture to be like, okay, this is going to set you up to success. And I feel like again, it really helps you when you go into practice, I think, of having that sociology viewpoint, of like having that structural viewpoint of like when you actually go post university. And that's my next one. And maybe this is going to be unknown. Maybe it's too big of a question. Maybe you're like, lady, this is 5 minutes in. Please don't, don't harass me with this. But I was wondering if you had a specialty or interest in terms of kind of your focus and if you knew really what you wanted your future to look like, if you knew what you wanted to focus on in the next
I
steps.
think there has been a lot of like up and down when it comes to choosing my like further
Mm.
path. I came into university with the thought of, okay, I'm going to do psychology, then med school, and then we'll go so forth. But over the past 3 years, I think meeting new people, seeing different pathways this one degree could take me, has been a pretty interesting journey and brought me to a point where I have no idea what I'm going to do. Because now I'm just like, okay, I can do med school, I can do masters, I can do a PhD, I can do academia. I have all these skill sets that I've built, and I don't know which one is gonna fit what my larger goal is the best way possible. And I feel like that's something which is like very not explored a lot for a lot of students, especially for women in STEM and things like that. And it's very important to know that it's okay
Mhm.
to be confused and all of a sudden lost. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, where I don't know what I'm doing. We will get to the end of the degree and then decide what fits best and whatever kind of opportunities are presented to me then. But yeah.
I love that answer because I think it's such a real one, and, like, when I wrote that question, I was like, "Oh, you're being very cheeky." Like, no one knows what they wanna do in the future, but, like, let's ask if maybe there is a specialty, but I like that answer of being like, "Hey, look, there's so many opportunities, there's so different ways you can take this degree," which is a beautiful thing about a career in science, is that the world is your oyster after undergrad. You really have so many opportunities available. But then I love of being like, yeah, we're just gonna like one step at a time, Alexis, and we'll figure it out. I love it. With your education, and I know it's been really well rounded. You've said like a lot of kind of discovery on where you wanted to go and what you wanted to focus on, and still discovery to come, which is beautiful. But I was wondering if there's anything that sticks out in terms of theory or in terms of topic which you've learned in your degree and that's fundamentally changed the way you view the world. Is that maybe that one
Mhm.
professor that changed you and made you go into sociology, but is there anything that comes to mind?
I think in matters of theory or topic, there really isn't much that I was like, caught off guard with. I think over the course of high school, I
Mm,
spent so much time studying psychology itself or being involved in something related to it that a lot of the things that I'm studying now are just kind of like, a sprinkle on top of everything that I kind of have applied skills for.
mm,
But external to my degree, I think there are a lot of lessons that I was able to learn just, being in university, being exposed to a world that I didn't have the ability to explore before. And one of the most prominent ones is kind of about failure, where I've just been able to learn that it's okay.
mm,
That it's okay to, fall down and then get up again and then fall down again and then get up again. I think it's something that has a lot of strength to it. And as I think
mm,
just individuals in society, or it be, gender diverse individuals, or just women in STEM, or any of that, it's something that's kind of taboo for us, where we're not allowed to fall down. We're supposed to be the golden kids. But I think over the course of
yeah.
university, I've learned that it's okay. It's okay to fall down. It's okay to, sit on the ground and be like, it's gonna take me a minute. I'll get up. It's okay. Just like,
Yeah, I just need a minute down
yeah,
here.
just
Yeah,
pass me my books
exactly.
here, I'll work from here. But, yeah, it's okay to fall down. It's good. I think you learn a lot when you're down, and from there, you're able to grow really, really well. But, yeah.
I think that this is already off to probably the realest interview that I've done, and I just thank you so much for these answers because I think there's such a beauty in that and such a vulnerability in that, and I couldn't agree more. Like, I love a good fun fact, I really do. Like, I love learning something about rocks that I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this is incredible." I will never use it in my life, in my professional or personal life. Like, I do love a fact, but I like that your answer was a true life skill. And I think you touched on a really big, important topic about being a woman in STEM or a woman in a male dominated environment or industry is like, yeah, we can't fail. Like you feel like you fail and you've let down
Yeah.
all of womanhood. And so I like that idea of being like, let's get comfortable down here and like let's work from here and let's go up. what helped you get that comfortable with it, if
Honestly,
I can ask?
continuously failing. Most of women and gender diverse individuals who come into STEM, we were like the golden kids in high school. We got the highest
Mhm.
averages, we were super competitive. And then when we come into university, we're all thrown to the ground collectively. And I think just that, push down to the ground and like, oh, I am not that, 90 plus student anymore. And it's okay. It's okay. I
Mm.
did my best. I am trying. I'm putting everything I have in what I'm doing is kind of what got me more comfortable. And I think also my parents have been very, very supportive, which was a little bit of a
Aw.
shocker for me because my background, we come from, these taboo families where they don't really appreciate not being academically amazing and all of that. So
Mhm.
it was quite amazing and quite, good for me to have parents who were super supportive when I failed or when I called them
Mm.
crying, like, "I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to
Mhm.
do. I'm gonna fail. I'm not going to university." Then just being like, "It's okay. Chill out.
Ah.
You'll be fine." Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I can relate to that, Jay, because I'm not practicing, but I have
Mhm.
Jewish heritage. And like in that culture, education is freaking king. And like, not to get too heavy, but like my grandmother was a
Mhm.
Holocaust survivor. And so she always would preach to be like, education was the one thing that no
Mhm.
one could take from you, and so it is the most important thing to pursue at all times is higher education, and so I had the same kind of feeling that I was really scared of failing, and I still remember the first time that I called my dad and I was like, "I think I flunked, like, a stats exam," and he was like, "Oh, don't worry about it, like, I failed too." And I was like, "What?" Like, I was taken aback. I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's all good, like, go have a hot chocolate, take a walk, like, don't worry about it. Not a big deal." But it healed something. There was something really,
Mhm.
really powerful of that. Like, I really relate to that, and, like, that's beautiful that you have your family that supported you and just a
Yeah.
support system around failing and, like, a restructure of failing. I think that's really
I think
beautiful.
alongside family, even friends play a huge part in this, or just people that you surround yourself with.
Mhm.
For me, like, I had to drop a math course because math ain't my strong suit. And then I saw, like, these wonderful, amazing people around me, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, this is, like, sucking the life out of me too." And I'm like, "Okay, so we're in the same boat. It's okay, it's okay. Then
Yeah.
things are fine, all of us are kind of doing this together, even if it's failure." It was very kind of empowering to have that support from people around me and be like, "It's okay to
Mhm.
fail. You'll get back up. You're fine. We will try again together." And I think that is very, very important for just kind of going further as you grow up. It's something that you learn that just the people that you
Mhm.
surround yourself with is a huge component of what you're able to do and how much you're able to achieve.
No, I love that. I love the importance of community. And I also love the kind of call out of being like these amazing people beside you. Cause I think that's also really common nature in our industries and our field is that you're surrounded by all these amazing people and you're like, well, they're geniuses. Like, I'm an imposter. What's going on? And in their head, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, everyone else is geniuses. And like, so it just normalizes that and like make sure like everyone's kind of gone through the same thing, which is pretty cool. Jay, I wanted to talk a little bit about because you have this wonderful education experience and like broad education, but you also have this broad experience in volunteering. And I think that that's pretty incredible. I know the age that you started at, which is like mind boggling. But I was wondering if you could kind of talk to your background in volunteering and outreach. I know that you've had some really wonderful roles in different organizations. Is there anything that you learned throughout that experience that maybe you take with you or something that sticks with you in all of your volunteering?
So yeah, I think I like started volunteering very, very, very young. I moved like to Canada about 10 years ago, and almost as soon as I moved, maybe 3 months after, I started volunteering, and I was in grade 6 ish, so 10 years old.
My god. 13? Is that 10? My
Well,
god, that's
I'm
crazy.
doing about 10 years of volunteering at this point, but I think, like, it's been a long journey. I've been able to do so much and be able to work with different communities for so long and kind of explore that, social aspect of the world, that it's helped me build a lot of skills which I wouldn't have been able to if I, like, just stuck to one thing or if I didn't try to explore these
Mhm,
different pathways. I think learning about people and just developing skills like communication, public speaking, or problem solving, all of these came from volunteering and engaging in the society basically. Like I started off as reading buddies with like grade 3 kids, and then I like did a few months of
aw,
teaching assistant in like grade 7, which was insane, and library volunteering, daycare volunteering, and festivals and whatnot. But I think it also like helped me explore a lot of the careers that I wanted to go into. Like for
mm,
politics, I joined the Mayor's Youth Council of Calgary under Youth Central,
wow,
and it was a very, very different experience. It wasn't something that it didn't really fit into what I wanted to do, but it was still something that helped me learn a
mhm,
lot, especially about advocacy and putting out programs for youth across Calgary, either it just be like an art contest or an
mm,
award set that we did, which was 20 under 20 and things like that. It's just so diverse and you learn so many skills. Alongside that, like when I got into grade 11, so right before COVID, I joined Distress Centre Calgary as a connecteen responder.
mhm,
So basically working on suicide lines and things like that. And it was, I think, one of my biggest breakthroughs to get into my degree, where I am working one on one with people and kind of working with them and their mental health and physical health and trying to work through
mhm.
those problems. And I think that was kind of my biggest through for a career perspective, and also a big breakthrough when it comes to social perspectives and learning those social skills of
Mhm.
empathy and compassion.
Yeah, I think, like, honestly, I think it's pretty incredible all of the work that you've done, and it probably led you to where you are now, and, like, not only did it give you all the skills that you're gonna, like, use and continue to use and continue to hone, but I feel like it probably also made this decision for you a little bit to be, like, a young age, the importance of, like, community, the importance of organization, of advocacy, of mental health. I love of, like, destigmatizing mental health. I love the work, even if I'm guessing it was probably a little bit heavy, um, still helping and having a direct impact in somebody's life and having such a big impact in something in someone's life. It's very fulfilling, but it's also pretty wonderful to be able to give that to the community and have that empathy for the community. So it's amazing what you do. I love it.
Yeah, I think just like
Yeah.
one thing, even now I work with, high school students and I'm a mentor to a few kids and things like that. And one of the biggest things I kind of advocate for is just getting them into volunteering and getting them that social exposure, which unfortunately schools don't just automatically provide. You can have a lot of
Mhm.
academic backgrounds and all of that, but I think unless you are on the field doing what you were, interested in, and sometimes even not interested in, but just for the fun of it, you're trying something
Mhm.
new, it allows you to expand your horizons and learn more, which is such a huge part of just kind of growing up and learning new things.
I I also think too, like, one thing that doesn't get talked about volunteering is not only does it expose you to, like, different people that you're helping or that you're, like, different kinda groups or initiatives that you're helping to work on, but it also gives you a really nice view of community and exposes you to different generations of people that are in this space, and, like, it gives you a network and, like, your own internal community that I think is sometimes missing and can be missing during university. University can be kind of a lonely time. So, like, I love that you're advocating for them to get into volunteering because I think that's such a
Mhm.
linchpin thing to have in university. I think it gives you a lot of comfort and a lot of stability. So
For
that's
sure.
wonderful. I was wondering if we could speak to
Mhm.
one organization that I know you're part of right now at university, which you're the
Mhm.
director of partnerships. And It is the University of Alberta's chapter of WISE, and there's WISE kinda
Mhm.
chapters all throughout Canada, and that stands for Women in Science and Engineering, and then it's the child program of WISEst. If people don't know WISE, if people are maybe outside of university, if they're maybe in the trades, could you maybe explain your guys' organization? It doesn't have to be definite, it can be loose, your guys' mission, and then, like, what you guys are working on as a like, what do you guys actually do in
Yeah,
terms
for
of
sure.
initiatives?
So UAVIS is a student group at the U of A, and it stands for University of Alberta Women in Science and Engineering. And we primarily support women and gender diverse undergraduate students that are underrepresented in the STEM fields. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics, things like that. We
Mhm.
mainly focus on planning events and things like that concerning mentorship, networking, and different careers that exist in STEM, and basically the challenges of working in a non traditional field. Mainly, like I mentioned, we work on mentorship, which is with high school students.
Mm.
So, helping them have those networking connections and people to talk to when coming into STEM fields or having an interest in being in STEM, as well as we host a BTA event, which is the Black Tie Affair, and we kind of have people who are in the field itself talk to individuals, high school students, university students, graduates, things like that, about that field and how they got into it and what their field consists of and things like that. So focusing on networking and just getting to know more.
I love that focus on mentoring and kind of setting up women and gender diverse people and setting them up for success for the next step. You guys do like an insane amount of things. Like you just named probably 5 different initiatives and focuses. And then if you look at Why Zest, they do like policy work, they do advocacy with like the Alberta government, they do advocacy work with younger education and school systems. Like they do a crazy amount of things that I also think that you guys are part of it. In all of those things that you do and all of those give backs, is there something that you were the most proudest of or that you think is like the most impactful that you're the happiest to being like, "Yeah, okay, I was part of that." Like that you're like, "Oh, I did that. I helped
Yeah,
in some
I
way."
think out of everything, mentorship is something that, I really
Mm,
love about UAYs or Wiser or Wisest. I think having this focus on mentorship and kind of opening up the doors for individuals or students in high school to be able to have someone supporting them through the career and ups and downs of university and high school is something that is very helpful, and it's something I would have appreciated when I was in high school. I
mm.
think university has so many things that you kind of don't know about, or when you come into university, you kind of come with like a blank slate. You are just told it's going to be super difficult.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
having a mentor or someone just kind of giving you a bit more direction about, oh yeah, this is possibly what you could do. These are the possible careers you have, and there are 100 more. So instead of coming into university
Mhm.
while you're in your degree being overwhelmed, you kind of just know from the start that these are my possibilities, and slowly and steadily you're able to explore those. And for myself, I've been in a few mentorship programs where I've mentored students and, have had those conversations where students are like, yeah, I'm so
Mhm.
shit scared. I don't know what to do. So just being
Yeah.
able to give that direction, like, it's okay, it's all chill, you're in grade 11, you can do this slowly,
Mhm.
just email me if you ever need help, and, these are your pathways, and we'll see what happens. And having that, just shoulders down moment of like, "Yeah, okay, it's okay, things are fine, it's not as
Yeah.
overwhelming as it's supposed to be." But having that moment, it's very kind of gratifying, and it makes you just like, "Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
it'll be fine, things are better, it's okay."
I love that answer because I think it kind of brings us back full circle to your ability to fail. And I think like your comfort with failing. And like, not that this is failing or telling them like, "Oh, hey," like, but I think it's getting them along that pathway. Like the first step, I think, to being like comfortable with maybe like not getting everything perfect is realizing that it doesn't have to be a huge pressure and it doesn't have to be figured out today or yesterday. Like you're not running behind. And I think that's pretty beautiful to pass on to the next generation. And I know I definitely needed that at that age. And I'm sure a lot of people needed that at that age. Have you had any of your mentor have they reached out to you kind of like post now that been in university, or has anybody kind of started and reached back out to be like, thank you, Jay, for along the way because it really
Yeah,
helped me?
I like started mentoring or unofficially mentoring, same thing, like quite early on in like grade 10-ish.
Yeah.
And I met one of my mentees through like one of the volunteering things I was doing. And they were like, I was in grade 10, they were in grade 8. And over the course of the past five
Mm.
years ish, and they have like stayed in contact with me from time to time. And I've been able to see their journey in like little pieces. And it's been just very, very
Mhm.
like, I have so much gratitude for having that opportunity to be able to see that journey and be a part of it. Either just be, telling them, oh yeah, these are the scholarships you can apply to, or okay, these universities you apply to, this is the amount of time you have to wait and it'll be fine. And just seeing them kind of get into university and be like, okay, I got in, I'm fine, everything seems actually okay. Like, okay, that's good. And other than that, I think one of the iffy parts about mentorship is like after a while it kind of falls apart and it's just like people start distancing because
Mm.
everything gets so crowded and busy. But just being a part of that journey for someone, it's so like just fulfilling and it makes you kind of just feel okay that there's one
Mhm.
person out there that like is doing good because I was a part. And as selfish as that reason is, but it's still something that,
Mm.
it's a growth that you see and it's very, very beautiful to look at.
Completely, like, I think that's the best feeling. I think, like, mentorship or any volunteer experience, like, it is very fulfilling, but it can be taxing. Like, let's be real, it can be a little bit heavy, a little bit challenging, like, there can have kinda some down moments in it, and I think it becomes all completely worth it of putting all of that work into it, all of that time and effort when somebody comes back and is like, "Oh, hey, like, yes, I know we haven't talked in 5 years, and, like, you're only maybe my mentor for like a little period of time, but that period of time had impact and that helped me, and like look at like where I am now. I had one of my first like kind of employees or students during my master's program. And this was when I was like the peak kind of imposter. I was like, I do not know what to do with this undergraduate student. Like who am I to really help this person? Like I don't even know what I'm doing. I recently had her reach out and she's now doing a PhD and she's absolutely fantastic and is like becoming a professor. And it's just, I think I cried. She sent me a message to be like, thank you so much. You're the, like one of the reasons why I completed a PhD and you just had impact. And I fully burst into tears. Like there's nothing like it. Jay, is there anything that's kind of like challenging in your role in organization or like in Wise? Is there anything that's maybe takes a little bit of work or takes a little bit of learning, like a learning curve in
Um,
community
I think
organization?
in anything you get involved in, there's always something that you're able to learn or something, you're able to grow from somewhere. I think with UA Wise, for me so far, it's been pretty okay. And I think one thing I've been able to honestly learn alongside everything else is just being able to have those like, one-on-one connections have been very easy and very simple. It's been something that I have learned for so long, and being able to have that,
Mm,
even a group of 5 or 6 and building those connections has been easy. But with a role at UAY, I have to kind of build external partnerships with community like groups, which are
mm,
just huge, and or companies and things like that. And that's been, I think, one of my challenges where I'm still learning to build those relations with official like companies, and it's very
mhm.
overwhelming because there are like so many people and like so many hoops I have to jump through.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's been one of my biggest learning things, that you can work with an individual, you can work with 10 people, you can work with 20 as well. But when it comes to these big companies and exposing yourself to that kind of sector, it's a little bit more different and it's a bit more challenging because there are so many like legal
Mhm,
issues or like just the fact that they don't fund places like UAYs and all of that.
mhm,
It's also time to time, discouraging because some companies are like, oh yeah, we don't fund groups that are specific to this stream, but then they also fund things that are specific to the stream, but just not towards the individuals that we are directing to, and having that social stigma kind
mm.
of surround everything. it's a bit discouraging, but still, we have a wonderful team on hand, which is always there to support and do that. So it's always okay. It's a good learning curve.
Hmm. That is a good learning curve, and, like, it'll set you up personally, like, on a personal note,
But
it'll set you up for success completely, but I could see that being difficult because, like, yes,
mhm,
corporations are huge. It's a lot of people. You're probably talking to like five different people for one organization or one thing, a lot of red tape. And it's like very specific to that
mhm,
organization. And I'm sorry to hear that you've had like some discomfort of being like, okay, well, we support these types of groups, but not you guys. Like, yeah, that I could see that being
mhm,
disheartening, but I'm happy that you have had some pretty amazing sponsors and community members, but
mhm.
yes, I could see that being very challenging.
I think it's always
With
sorry. I think
No, no,
I
keep
think it's
going.
always challenging, especially when you're in a stream like this, and there are so many different what we are focusing on is like women in STEM and gender diverse individuals. We also have people from racialized communities and people of
Mhm,
different origins or like LGBTQ community individuals and things like that.
mhm,
And there is just so much diversity, and there's always just like some sort of backlash that you experience from that, which is not good. But I think same thing. It comes down to surrounding yourself with people who are going to be supportive and who are going to be able to take you out of that bubble of darkness.
mhm.
But
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, agreed. What a way to put it, but it's true, like, I think you do have to find, like, other champions that are aligned with your same values, and I think it comes down to be like, "Okay, well, did we even really need that organization? If they don't stand for what we stand for, did we even really want them on the team?" And, like, probably not, you know what I mean? Like, we'll find it might take a little bit of time and be a little harder to find the right connections, but they are out there and they do exist. I was wondering if we could take a step back, Jay, if we could talk a little bit about maybe the definition of what you guys are trying to do and what you guys are like ultimately the mission, because I think that's what's really wonderful about Wise is like you guys do a really good job of explaining kind of what is the background right now of women in STEM and gender diverse people in STEM. And I was wondering if you could explain kind of STEMinism 101, because I think you guys do a really good job of talking about the basics. Like this is the state, this is the biases, this is like what's happened in historic culture, and this is where we're starting at. This is our current position.
I think if we want to start right from the start, women or gender diverse individuals in STEM has been a consistent issue for a very long time. STEM is very male dominated, and having to be able to be
Mhm,
there or present in a male dominated job or culture is pretty difficult in all simplicity. And I think that's kind of where our starting point is kind of looking at these basically sexist, but
mhm,
very not accepting kind of viewpoints and going from there. Very kind of good for where we are now. We have come a bit far where we are, yeah, like women or gender diverse individuals are accepted, but there's still that red tape that we have to kind of go past. And that's
mhm,
where we are standing, where we are there to help and encourage individuals to come into and break the stigma that is being still surrounding us, or that continues
mhm,
to surround women and gender diverse individuals, to not be accepted in STEM or have the entire thing of, oh yeah, if you are a woman, you'll have these 10 different things that are going to impact your place in STEM. Or if you're a gender diverse individual, you have these 10 things that are going to impact. But when it comes to men or males, it's not that. They are like, oh, yeah, yeah, welcome. This is what you're here for. This is what you're built for. So
Yeah,
breaking that
yeah,
stigma that,
mhm,
women, gender diverse individuals, we belong there too. We can do the work, and we
mhm,
are capable of it as well. And that's where the mentorship and engagement part and networking part comes in. That to be able to break through industries like this, we need those strong networks to be able to come forth. Because right now, although we want it to be, it's still that connections get you places. So just being able to build
Mhm.
that and help students have that confidence that, even if it's very male dominated, I can still make it because I'm as capable as anyone else, if not more. So yeah.
No, I love what you guys do because it almost seems like very rebellious. Like it seems like it's like, okay, like this is the state currently is that like it has always been biased. It has always kind of been rooted in bigotry or rooted in sexism historically. Unfortunately, it's still there in some cases, either by individual or by organization, whether they realize it or if it's intentional, it doesn't matter. It still exists, but it seems like WISE chapters and like UA WISE, it's part of almost this like secret society of being like, you know what? We know that this exists and we are going to just make our own community. We're going to make our own mentorship and we're going to make our own network and we're going to kind of change it from the inside out, which is very, very powerful. In terms of, like, increasing representation of women, and I don't wanna give you this, like, "Jay, please fix all representation of women in STEM." Like, I don't wanna give you that question because I think it's unfair and I think it's not really possible or truthful, but, like, to you personally, is there anything that you think that we need to fundamentally focus on in terms of increasing equity? Like, if somebody outside of the community was like, "Okay, well, what do you need with all of the resources that are available, like what are the directions that we need to focus on? If I could give you that question, you don't have to solve representation. There's no way, but like, what do you think is fundamental to moving us forward in the right direction?
I think something that is fundamental to kind of moving forward would be mentorship programs like UA Wise and Wiser and
Mm,
things like that. I think having that support and having that encouragement is such a huge part of allowing yourself to, get into a specific thing or go into a specific job stream or whatever it may be. That having more programs like mentorship with UA Wise or Wiser helps build that encouragement and help build that confidence in students who are going to be stepping into STEM careers and things like that. I feel like that's a pretty good starting point to build confidence, to build encouragement, and have that, little push that, okay, I still have people here that look like me or are like me, and I belong. Because I feel like
mhm,
that belonging aspect is such a huge part of growing up that you always struggle with it when you don't see people of
mhm,
either be the same shape, color, size, whatever you want to take it as you in the career that you're trying to get into.
mhm.
There's a huge disencouragement that comes with it. So having programs
Totally.
that help you see people of different communities and people who look like you, people who might have the same backstory as you, show you that you can come into this as well and you can succeed there too, without that bias or without that veil of like stigma is wonderful, and it helps you kind of be like, okay, yeah, I can do this. I am gonna do this. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that change up of being like, I can do this to like I am gonna do this. Like I see my future. My future looks like Jay. Like she did it. I can get there as well. I would like to bring kinda focus a little bit on one thing that I think that you do so beautifully, and I think it's probably from the organization as well, is I think, yes, mentorship and community, I think, is fundamental to changing equity, but I also think having conversations that are realistic, and I think what you've done is be so vulnerable and honest about being like, "Okay, yes, like, I'm comfortable failing, like, I'm not this golden child scientist, like, I am not this perfect person," and to have kind of nuance in that conversation, I think is really important as well. Because I think in order to get us further, I think we do have to all individually drop the idea that we have to be these perfect scientists and we have to act a certain way to almost deserve our spot at the table. That like that spot at the table is so fragile that we have to come a certain way in order to deserve it. And I think that's really fundamental to get us to the next step, and I know that I've struggled with it. I think it sounds like you've struggled with it as well, and I've overcome it with grace, so I think that's pretty beautiful what you're
I
doing.
think like, something I've recently started to realize, which is like really weird, but individuals who've already made it to, that level of, oh yeah, I got all my degrees, I'm all set, I'm all good. they don't show as much vulnerability. And that is something that I've noticed across the board.
Mhm.
And I think for myself, if at that point, for me, I had a wonderful mentor who was able to, show that vulnerability because she was still going through her university stages and things like that. And
Mhm.
I saw her like fail and just be like, oh, yeah, I'm not doing so good. I don't know how to do it. And being able to see that and then compare it to myself, where I was facing the same thing and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know how to do it.
Mhm.
Having that kind of side by side thing has been super helpful. And it's something that, I try to kind of keep up as well. Where anytime I'm talking to either
Mhm.
it be my mentees or just people who are asking me about university and things like that, instead of putting up the veil of, oh yeah, everything's good, you got this, like everything is absolutely fine. Oh,
Toxic
toxic
positivity.
positivity.
Yeah.
uh, I try to be
Yeah.
as honest about, like, okay, yeah, it's gonna suck for a while. You're gonna miss your family, you're gonna miss your siblings, you're gonna miss your friends,
Yeah.
you're gonna miss the fact that you could goof off at any time, but you're also gonna be able to do a lot more and see a lot of different things, learn so much more variety, and kind of gain that external experience. So there are positives, there are
Mhm.
negatives. It's okay to cry if you feel like it, but it's also okay to kind of dance and down a bottle and just enjoy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just agree to enjoy life, that it's just a component of your life. It's not like this big identity that like requires certain behaviors associated to that identity. And I think like again, thank you for just having that and being you, but like also bringing it to this interview today and talking about it because I think it does set you up for future success as well. I know that like a common problem of women in science is getting really scared of asking questions or admitting that you don't know something. And I think kind of the first step towards that process and overcoming that is just your own vulnerability and being okay with it. Jay, just to wrap us up, I wanted to ask one more question, and it's to kind of leave on maybe something joyful and hopeful because like these spaces can be a little bit tiring or negative. Like your entire whole mission, like d'etre, is like to be like, okay, let's change culture and let's really focus on culture and let's focus on what's going wrong. And it can be really, really heavy. And I was wondering if within the community an outreach space, if there's anything that brings you joy and hope, is there something that you're like, okay, we're doing something right, or that makes me smile?
I
Anything
think
there?
over the course of the past 10 years, I've seen a lot of change happen. I've seen from, 10 people being like, "Oh yeah, I have this question I want it answered and I want to know now,"
Mhm.
to sitting in front of 40 students being like, "Okay, yeah, I want to know how I can grow here." And I think seeing that change has
Mhm.
been just one of the most wonderful experiences. And being in such a short time that in just 10 years you go from 10 to 40, it is just very encouraging and motivating for my own self. Like recently, I was part
Mhm.
of a set conference with Wiser, and there were so many amazing, wonderful students that came in, and they were so eager to be able to, like, okay, yeah, I want to know how I can succeed. I want to know how I can grow, and having that passion and
Mhm.
allowing for, those, just being the water on those seeds. It's just so great because you see such beautiful growth and engagement and all of that.
Mhm.
That's kind of, I think, my favorite part about, like, outreach and being involved. You see growth and you see change, and it happens right in front of your eyes, and you have a little bit to do with it, and it's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, because there is like there definitely is a little bit of a
Mm.
selfish aspect of community organization to be like, yeah, I'm getting a lot of out of this as well. Like this is filling my cup and this is like really motivating me for the next level. Thank you, Jay, for taking time and having Smoko with us. And thank you just for all that you do in terms of community, volunteering. Thank you for getting a little bit into your draw into psych and into soc. And again, just thank you. This has been such a joy.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you guys for listening. This is the Smoko podcast. We will see you next week. We'll see you next Wednesday.